Welcome in, Hawks fans. Your boy Bryce Lewis back at it again for another Believe in Hawks episode. The Atlanta Hawks, first day of free agency down, have put the league on notice, continuing an excellent offseason under the leadership of Ansi Soleil, as he has built a team that is ready to compete in the Eastern Conference, and that continued in free agency, adding two names, Nickeil Alexander-Walker and Luke Canard. And people have been raving about the Hawks offseason so far, saying that this team could make it out of the Eastern Conference Finals, which, if that happened, would be the first time since moving to Atlanta, relocating to Atlanta, that the Hawks would have been in a finals. So obviously expectations are changing. People are excited. A lot of people are curious what's next, what other moves are left to be made. Because remember, we're only one day down in free agency. So, and we haven't even hit a full 24 hours yet, technically. So, but there's a lot of excitement in Atlanta, and we're going to break it all down here on Believe in Hawks, guys. I appreciate you guys tuning in for this episode. If you enjoyed the episode, subscribe to the channel, like the video, leave a comment down below about anything that I discussed on the pod today. Audio listeners, if you're listening to me through audio, please leave a rating, hopefully a 5-star review, so more people can have access to this podcast. It's available on any podcast platform out there. If you can't watch the video version and you can only be listening, going to work, having lunch, whatever time you have, cleaning the house, man. So obviously I appreciate all the support as we continue to get closer to 2,000 subscribers on YouTube. So hit that subscribe button so we can hit that goal. And like I said, appreciate the support that you guys have given me. But let's go ahead and dive right into it. The Hawks starting the free agency. Obviously, free agencies change. We're used to those 1 minute after, midnight back in the day. Real hoopers know when free agency started at midnight and you were getting deals at 12:01 a.m. And then, they moved it and then you get them at 6:01. Obviously, the way the league has changed things, the deals ain't coming. You're getting the players that you don't care about in the first notifications. But after an hour and a half, 2 hours, you started to see some deals happening for the Hawks. The first deal they were able to get done was Nickeil Alexander-Walker. 4 years, $62 million. A great value for him. Some people were worried, would it approach $20 million? Did it even hit that? So this is a very strong deal for the Atlanta Hawks, Ansi Soleil, to get Alexander Walker in Atlanta. So obviously the big thing for him, bringing what he brings to Atlanta, is just his versatility in 3-and-D. He's a guy who has grinded in Minnesota, improved his game, especially in the corners. I think he's over 40% in one quarter and 50% from three in the other. So he has really developed his three-point shot. I said yesterday in my free agency preview video that he was shooting 38% as from the field, I think, this entire past season from three. So clearly this is a guy who can bring that offensively. He also can put the ball on the floor. But at the same time, a guy who can defend. He can defend the other team's best wing, other team's best guard. And so you have him and Dyson Daniels now, two ferocious defenders, two of some of the best defenders in the game on the same team, 48 minutes of high-level defensive play from those two guys. And so he was obviously the prize of this free agency. The Hawks have said to have identified him as a target weeks before this. So, and they were going to use the TBE to do it, which they were able to do, and they didn't have to use the full TBE to actually – I'm not saying TPE. TPE to actually get him in Atlanta. And so I think there's a strong deal all across the board. Like I said, Alexander Walker is a guy who I look forward to him being here, seeing how he does, how he's integrated. Obviously, he's a guy in certain games you can finish with. Because here's the thing. I think the Hawks this year actually have interesting lineup issues, but it's not bad when I say that, because they have guys who you can finish with different guys. If let's say, it's easy to point him out, Zach. If Zach's not having a great game, but Nickeil is, you can finish with him. Now, obviously, Zach's a bigger guy, so again, it depends on the team you're playing, matchups, things like that. But He's a guy who, if an injury happens to Dyson, he can fill in easily. We learned that Trae Young was very crucial in the recruitment of Alexander Walker. Chris Haynes had reported that he reached out to Alexander Walker to help pitch to him to come to Atlanta. Trae Young was very active in, honestly, both signings tonight, also with Luke Canard as well. So Trae Young obviously is very, locked into the Hawks. And I think Mark Spears talked about it earlier today on ESPN. He mentioned that he talked to Trae during the finals, and he said that Trae's excited about the team, he's excited about the direction. And he thinks that, and now, as Mark Spears said, he says, I think the Hawks are now contenders and are in contention. So Trae Young, I mean, again, showing his commitment to the city, commitment to the team, commitment to the organization. Ansi said that Trae Young is locked in. And I think today, seeing those reports, seeing those tweets proved that. It proved that Trae Young is locked in, getting a guy like Nickeil because he understands what Nickeil can do for this team. I mean, the blueprint for this team was started last year with drafting Zach, getting Dyson. And I think Trae, recognized those things. And he realized once we got past those guys, we really didn't have those guys on the roster. Because, again, they were trying to retool the team a little bit. And so I think Trae knows, I mean, did he strike out with DeJounte Murray? Sure, it happens. No GM, no decision maker is going to go 100 for 100. They're never going to go bat 1,000. You're going to miss some. But, but I think after seeing some different things and obviously seeing how the league and how teams that were in the finals and how they're built, having a guy like a Nickeil Alexander Walker is extremely important. And I think that they were able to, the fact that you were able to secure him, get him in, ended up working out for the Hawks. And the Hawks in a trade just gave up a second-round pick that they got from Cleveland and some cash back to Minnesota in return to complete that sign and trade. So obviously he was the first big domino to fall of free agency for the Hawks. The second was getting sharpshooter Luke Canard, 1 year, $11 million deal. He is one of the best shooters in the NBA as well. Obviously, Luke Canard, we know what he brings. He has shot fantastic from three. He shot over 40% the last 3-4 years. So and he's replacing what we lost when we traded Bogdanovich. We never really replaced him in those trades. We never got. I mean, George Niang, was a good shooter, but it was just not the same. And Luke Canard potentially replaces that now. Obviously, his strength is shooting. He also is a really good passer. He's a guy you can run some pick and roll through. He can find guys. He averaged 3 assists a game. So again, in the type of offense the Hawks like to run, the motion offense, constantly making plays, drive, shoot, pass, Luke Canard fits perfectly what they're trying to do, trying to create that spacing that they want, that Quinn's talked about in this offense. And so Luke Canard really is kind of a perfect fit, especially with Trae Young, who's going to get you some easy looks. I expect Luke to have another 40% plus season. And, again, we know he has some defensive limitations, but I've talked about this on social. Every role player has a weakness, and you just always try to say, if we add him, what can we do about his weakness? And the Hawks could say we can put defenders around Luke Canard when he's on the floor. Obviously, when you have the Trae Luke Canard lineup, you're going to have to figure some stuff out there. But you're also really depending on the high offensive output that you would expect from that duo and just Luke in general. And $11 million is probably more on the higher side of what you would want to pay a guy like him. But at the same time, it's a 1-year deal. And that's really important. This is not a long-term thing for them. This is a 1-year sharpshooter deal. And we'll see how the season goes. Obviously, his big thing, along with the defense, has been injuries as well. He has had some issues of staying healthy. But if he stays healthy, he could shoot the lights out and just gives them that shooting threat that they really need. And that's really one thing, like I've said, they've kind of addressed. Nickeil Alexander Walker, 38%. Luke Canard, over 40%. Porzingis can shoot the 3. They've added 3 guys this offseason who can shoot the ball. So they've clearly tried to address the shooting issue that has been there for this team. And I think you improved defensively and you've added shooting. And I think that's something that was really crucial for the Hawks and everything. So those were the 2 free agent signings for the Hawks today that really excited a lot of people. Now, they did lose someone. They did lose Karis LeVert. Obviously, tough loss. the Malik Beasley situation completely changed the outcome of this free agency. We don't know if Malik Beasley never got into the investigation if Karis LeVert would be a Hawk right now. And we don't know if that would potentially impact Luke Canard or something, or Alexander Walker. We will never know. But it's happened. He went on to Detroit. I'm happy for him. Wish him the best, except against us. And, he'll do his thing there. The biggest thing you lose really with him is that second unit creation. And that's the main thing people talked about, is that who's going to create in the second unit? There's nobody who can create. It's pretty much very you need. And then even if you think about the second unit point guard, do you have a point guard who can get you the ball? We know Trey can. But are the Hawks really going to lean more on Trey for everything, or is there a belief in Kobe Buffkin taking that next step, or what? So the Hawks aren't done. I believe they still have 3 roster spots to fill. They need at least 14 players. So I think they have 3 spots to fill. I think they're about $7 million under the tax. So they have some spots that they need to fill on this team. So they're not going to be done in free agency. But I know sometimes you may turn your attention to some guys that you want to re-sign. Larry Nance Jr. is a name that's been mentioned a few times today about him maybe potentially going back to Atlanta as that third center for the team. So we'll keep an eye on that to see if Larry Nance is a guy who comes back. I don't really see anybody else as of right now coming back. But listen, it's the first day. They could still sign someone a month or 2 from now. So we'll see how they fill out the rest of the roster. But something to keep an eye on. And obviously, as well, another Hawk that left today was Clint Capella, which we obviously expected, just based off the Porzingis trade and of that, but also, losing his job to Capella last season. Capella is back with the Rockets. He signed there. Houston didn't have enough money to actually do the trade, so they had to do a sign and trade with the Hawks. Well, the Hawks essentially got a second-round pick from Houston and some cash. So that was the trade that essentially happened between those two teams, to get Capella in Houston, and the Hawks just get whatever back in return, essentially making up for the pick they traded when they traded due to the sign and trade for Minnesota for Alexander Walker. So, where do we stand right now, I think, is the next question in this equation. So you probably, if you look at the Hawks right now in terms of needs, you're looking at probably, again, point guard. Listen, the point guard position is so interesting right now for the Hawks because there really has been nobody they've been connected to. You haven't really heard any rumors about them getting a guy. It seems like if they get a point guard, it will not be some game-changing guy. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think that they clearly have said that we're going to invest a lot into that position. I don't know what that means, though. Is that them saying we believe in Kobe Buffkin? And I know a lot of you are all on him. They just think, listen, he's been hurt. We're trying to win. We don't have time. Move on. Or at least how some people have put it, at least bring in a guy for competition. And obviously they can still do that. We'll see what other movement is made and what other options the Hawks could potentially go down to potentially make that decision. But, you would think at some point they're going to add to that position. I don't know. They did tender Keaton Wallace. I don't know if Keaton is necessarily, are they comfortable with him being PG3? Maybe. We'll see. But I think that would be a position that I'm sure people are going to talk about a lot just because they're going to be curious to know, are the Hawks, who are they looking at? What are they thinking at that position? Because we have heard nothing so far this offseason regarding that spot. So something that I know Hawks fans are going to keep an eye on. And obviously, another big wing, obviously behind Zach. Nickeil Alexander-Walker, I believe, is 6'5". Luke Kennard's not a great defender. So people are saying you need another big wing behind Zach, trying to just, find a guy who can defend. And some people have mentioned with the depth they're accumulating, does Quinn potentially think about going 11, maybe even 12 deep at times? Just because of some of the talent that they're getting on the team. Could be a possibility for sure, but we'll see what they do, because I know Quinn really likes 9, but realistically, the way you're building this team out, you could easily go 10. So I think that's another position of concern for some people. It's just another big wing. It's funny because some people are saying big, and I'm like, big's not really an issue. Again, we've had more discussions. Yeka Kongu is not going to be traded. That's just not going to happen. We need to end that. But I also know that comes with the discussion of who's starting at center this year. Kristaps Porzingis or Onyeka Okongwu. We'll see opening night because I do not think Quinn and the Hawks are going to give us any indication of that off the bat. And I've said, too, with the Hawks, it's going to be interesting when the offseason kind of finishes up and they sign the guys they're going to sign, because their starting unit, essentially, if you put a Okongwu there, is the same. So in terms of chemistry, it's not going to be an issue with the starters. They've played together. It's going to be really the second unit, because that's essentially going to be, I would say, if you do go for Okongwu, you're having 3 new guys, potentially up to 4, maybe 5, I don't know, who could be playing in your second unit who weren't here last year or played last year. So you're essentially starting over at that unit. And so that unit is going to take some time to mesh, take time to get in and, get that chemistry and that cohesion with players who have been here already. So that would be something to keep an eye on at the beginning of the season, just because that's part of it. But overall, I think the Hawks, like I said, did a pretty good job tonight. They really have put people on notice. People are aware of what the Atlanta Hawks are doing. They see the potential of this team. And listen, you still got fans who are like, oh, that'll be a good, second-round playoff team. I've seen Knicks fans saying that, oh, Hawks signing these guys and they still ain't better than the Knicks. And I said, listen, just give me Hawks Knicks again, and I'll be happy, man. Let me get Hawks and Knicks again. But, for the most part, the general consensus, the Hawks have killed it. They've done a great job. They're threats in the Eastern Conference. And the biggest thing for them is just health, staying healthy. Jalen staying healthy. If they can stay healthy, I said that they can go toe-to-toe with any team in the Eastern Conference. I don't see why they couldn't. They have size now, defense, shooting. Like I said, the biggest thing you probably are worried about at this point is just they don't have a second creator. And whether that's Dyson stepping up, Jalen stepping up, whoever, potentially they believe in someone in the house to do that. Or like I've said, we're only a half of a whole, like we're 6 hours, 7 hours of the time of this recording into free agency. So there's so much time left for the Hawks to still try to address that. I know some people mentioned Malik Monk. I've seen before I hopped on Jake Fisher kind of said Detroit may be eyeing that. So I don't know if that's something. And plus with money, I don't know if that would work. Remember, the Hawks are $7 million under. So I don't know how the money would work. And that's what makes this interesting, because there's still the belief the Hawks don't want to go over the tax. But at the same time, you do have to sign a few more players. So that's why I've said, like, don't be surprised that these just more re-sign. They're just re-signing people at this point to fill it out. So but like I said, they may make another move that could allow them to go get a guy. So I'm curious to kind of see what that ends up looking like moving forward. So obviously, I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts on the free agency the Hawks have had. What are your thoughts? What do you think? Do you think there was any overpays? Do you like the deals? And also, who are some guys that you guys would like to go for the Hawks to go after? Who do you think would be a good person to say, hey, let's see if we can get this guy in? Because really, when you get past that first couple of days, you're really kind of just trying to find good value. What's a player who has good value, can play, isn't I guess, what's the word? I guess standout player, and everything. And essentially just finding players who are gonna stand out and do their thing, right? So I think the Hawks and really this NBA offseason, I think what you've seen today from the offseason, it's about finding the right players to complete your team. And I've tried to tell people this, and I've said it on the podcast. The days of just being top heavy, having lack of depth, couple of good role players, and winning championships are over. You've seen with Oklahoma City and Indiana, they were deep. They had multiple guys who could come in and play and ball and compete. And so that's why I never was in love with the Giannis thing, because I said, if you do it, you're more likely going to look like a top-heavy team with lack of depth. And I just don't think in today's NBA, with how the CBA has changed things and how things have been different, you can go and do that and have success, because the Suns did it and it failed. And so the best thing Onsi has done has been able to provide future assets, which are always going to be important. He's signing guys on strong deals, $15.12 million for Nikhil, great value. 1 year deal for Luke. He's off the books. Don't forget, for Porzingis is on an expiring deal. So that's about 30 off the books. That's potentially $40 million off the books just between those two players, with potential Trae Young and Dyson Daniels extensions coming up. So, and that may be one reason why they drafted a guy like Asa, because they may hope at some point, hey, we need you to kind of step up into a role, just because, but that's how you have to kind of build your teams out. Because you're not going to be able to just have everybody at high salary, especially if you're not going to be an apron team, which I think the Hawks are still trying not to be. I've said this though. If the Hawks make a run, I think the Hawks will be willing to go into the tax, because then it's like, well, we've made a run. If we need one more piece and it's going to take us getting into the tax, we have evidence that shows, well, we were good without it. This piece we thinking it is over the top. You're not going to go into the tax if you don't have any evidence that your team's already at a point where they're good, because you have to be smart about these things if you're an NBA team, because of how the teams have to sign their players. And so really what the Hawks have done is they've just tried to find really good fits for their team and build their team that way, which is how you have to build it now. And so, listen, I'm sure people would love to still get a star, but you essentially now have built this team out. Trae Young is excited. Hawks fans are excited. This is probably one of the best offseasons they've had since 2020, which was the year they wanted to try to make the playoffs. And it seems like the Hawks are putting themselves in position to really, like I said, take that next step and really just go ahead and push forward. So, I think for me, it's one of those things where I really am happy about the direction of the team, where things are going, and how things are going to go overall. So we'll have to see what happens, and we'll see what's next for the Hawks. We'll see what other moves they make. We'll see if there's any other rumors they're involved in. Obviously, if that happens, I'll be right back here on the podcast to discuss whatever other moves they've made, and we'll break it down from there. Like I've said, I'm planning to have some people come on the pod again within the next few weeks and talk about some of the moves the Hawks have made this offseason and everything. So I appreciate you guys for sure for tuning in for another episode, Free Agent Edition, first day of free agency. Hawks making a splash. Nikhil Alexander-Walker and Luke Canard added. Lose Karis LeVert and Clint Capella. But overall, Hawks so far have been killing the offseason and have done a great job building this team around Trae Young and trying to take that next step in a wide open Eastern Conference. So if you enjoyed this episode, subscribe to the channel, like the video, everything on this time. Also, what was I going to say? If you're listening to audio, leave a 5-star review. Appreciate all the love from you guys. And you can listen to this podcast on any platform out there that's available. And also follow me on Twitter at Bricey_2K for all my latest tweets about the Hawks and what they are doing. So, like I said, guys, exciting times in Atlanta Hawks land. We'll see what's next. We'll see what Onsi got cooking up for us, and we'll continue to follow things from there. But that's all for me. It's your boy, Bryce Lewis. See you next time.